Okay. We are actually waiting for one other panelist who was just finishing another panel. Karen Allen will be up here in a minute, but because everybody's figuring out where to go, she'll be running in about 2 or 3 minutes. Oh, speaking of, Karen Allen with her own sign. Look at, I mean, how useful is that? Look at that.
Cash and carry.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody's going to pick one. You'll pick one if we disagree with it, and we'll
Okay.
everybody gets to do one.
Let's do it.
Okay. Welcome to the afternoon Agree or Disagree panel. Those of you who have not been to this format before, my name is Steve Bradbury. I created this format several years ago, and it works really well. Some of you have been here before, nodding your head up and down. Some of you are getting up and leaving right now, which is fine. But actually, it works really well because everybody in the room gets to talk. This is not the talking heads in the front and you all get to check your email. This is you get to be part of the conversation if you choose to. I may even call on somebody if I choose to. Let me show you a couple of data points first, then we'll introduce the panel and we'll get right into it. Sorry, my remote control was not in my bag this morning. My headphones for traveling were. They look like the same case, so unfortunately we don't have those. But okay, let me just show you a few data points that I think are pertinent to this panel. This is a piece of research, and I'm sorry if it's a little hard to see in the back. This is a piece of research that came from eMarketer in December, and it talks about pay and non-pay households, and I'll highlight a couple of things for you. The first one, and it shows a trend from 2014 going up to 2019 of the number of pay TV households. So that's cable or satellite households. And you can see the numbers are going down every year. That's obviously a bit of a challenge that's going on. And concurrent with that are the number of non-pay households that are going up. Sometimes I do, and by the way, this is all publicly available. You can just go online and find it. This is nothing proprietary here. I teach a class, I teach at Boston University and Syracuse, a bunch of other places, and we talk about cord cutting and cord shaving and cord nevers and where they fit into this equation. But this is obviously a major trend that's been going on for a while, and one part of the reason we have this panel is because people are consuming content in other ways other than traditional. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, just a couple quick data points. The next is a chart that it's a little hard to see. I've made it as big as I could. It's from Digital Smiths sometime last year. And what it does is it's looking at OTT services, subscription OTT services. So if you can't see those three circles to the left, those are Q2 of 2013, 14, and 15. And the green, the big green is Netflix. The light blue next to it is Amazon Prime. And the darker blue next to it is Hulu and Hulu Plus. The reason that I show these, and again, it's a little hard to tell with that circle there, but those four that showed up in 2015 were ones that's how the market got expanded, and I've tried to circle them there for you. HBO Now, CBS All Access, PlayStation Vue, and Sling all came on board in 2015 that were not in 2014. However, the market share of the big leaders still grew. Those four, if you add it up, accounts for about, I believe it's about 8 or 9%. So there's continued growth and continued expansion. And just a snapshot of kind of what's going on. The other one that I'm going to show, this actually I got in the mail this morning. So Global Web Index, you can subscribe, and every day they will send you an email with some data point. And I got this morning and went, oh, this is pretty cool. So time spent on mobile by millennials, and it shows growing from 2015 to 2012 to 2016, and going from 1.78 hours to 3.14 hours, just to show the consumption. Obvious statement, but it just puts some numbers behind what we already know. And again, I got this, I think, at about 7 o'clock this morning, so I thought, oh, I'll put it on the panel and show it. So again, just a few data points to just kind of set the conversation. We've got a really good panel here. I'm going to ask them all to introduce themselves. They're not sitting in the order that it's set up on the screen, but we'll just start here with Michael and ask you to spend about a minute introducing yourself so we can get a sense of who you are.
Sure. My name is Michael Kernan. I head up a company called New Media Studios and Management. It's like it says, it's a studio and management company. The management side is all digital. So basically, the management side, I was the head of digital media for a talent agency called ICM, heading up LA, New York, and London. left, took a bunch of the clients with me to do in the digital space. Have been working with those clients since I left ICM. On the studio side, we've done everything from production to marrying advertisers into content, and that's, for us, the way we see the highest revenue for online content, mobile content, is marrying an advertiser in.
Hi, I'm Larry LeBeau, and I'm the president of production at SXM. We are a digital studio, so what that means is we create digital content, develop digital content, produce digital content for a lot of the studios online, a lot of the networks online, OVNs such as Dailymotion, and we also do a lot of content specifically for brands. So we work on a lot of branded channels with networks like, or brands like Verizon, Mountain Dew, Coca-Cola, IKEA.
I'm the shortest one. Hi, I'm Val Voci. I head up marketing for OwnZone's Media Network. My background's a little bit different, so this is actually an interesting panel. I'm a digital native, although in a long time ago digital native. And at OwnZone's Media Network, we're really providing end-to-end solutions for the content creators to enter this kind of fragmented OTT, ever-changing, cord shaver, cord never, cord sometimes world that we're in right now. So we have kind of a nice marriage of technology with a lot of content, real-world experience on digital-only platforms.
Hi, my name's Anthony Laser. I'm the U.S. Content Director for Dailymotion. Dailymotion is the second largest video platform in terms of scale in the world. We manage content partners everywhere from traditional media companies like NBC Universal and CBS to Digital First, BuzzFeed, Mashable, to MCNs that we partnered with, like Maker Studio, Machinima, Fullscreen. And my team does two things. It's acquire new partners and develop those partners' audiences on our platform.
I'm Karen Allen. I do strategy and business development for digital entertainment companies. I have a big background in digital music, so a lot of my client base comes from there. But it really does span all general entertainment technology. I have a client right now in advertising, for example. My other project I work on is a show called Riffing With. We launched it late last year in October on Hulu. It's a music interview show, and I don't do the interviews. We have I have a partner who is an amazing interviewer and writes for Billboard and Rolling Stone, a bunch of other people. But the first season went really well. We have 10 episodes up right now on Hulu. Everyone from Brian Wilson, Annie Lennox, Perry Farrell, Travis Barker from Blink, and Def Leppard. We just did Heart. So it's on Hulu. It's on Amazon Prime. It's also on Virgin In-Flight Entertainment. And I'm shopping season 2 right now. So I'm talking to brands, talking to networks, and trying to find what our next move is.
I'll say I've watched several of the episodes. They are very well done, so I'd encourage you to go check them out.
Riffing With.
Yes, Riffing With. Thank you. And I'm Steve Bradbury. I have a consultancy called Velocity Digital. Up until several months ago, I was the chief operating officer of a company called Zoom Media Group out of New York. Obviously, I'm here, they're in New York. At some point, you grow too big, and that becomes a little bit of a challenge. But the company's doing really well. I'm very proud of what they've done, and hopefully they continue to do it. I've been doing a lot of teaching. I mentioned at BU in Syracuse. I'm developing a digital media program for them this summer, do some advising. And then I have a little passion project on the side. So if anybody is a sports fan, okay, you can go on Twitter and follow Deep Sports TV, or on Facebook you can follow Deep Sports. It's just a hobby, it's a passion project, but it's kind of fun. I post every day some cool things, and if you're, check it out and see if you like it. Okay, so we're here to use a format called Agree or Disagree. This is how it works. About 10 minutes ago, I handed to each of the panelists this list. They have not seen this until 5 or 10 minutes ago, so there's no canned responses. There are 13 statements that are related to this session. And they looked at it for the first time, and we're going to go down and mix it up a little bit, and each panelist is going to select a statement. I will put it up on the screen, and they'll take a position on that statement. Do they agree with it or disagree with it? And hopefully, maybe somebody else on the panel doesn't agree. We'll have a little discussion, include the audience for 6, 7, 8 minutes. We'll see how long it goes, how much interest there is, and then we'll move on to the next one. We'll go through at least 5 of them. I have 13 on here. Maybe if somebody's interested, maybe I'll hand the list to someone in the audience and they can play panelist if they like. We'll see how many we can get through. I encourage you to share, to participate. Just raise your hand. Make one request, the same request I made of the panel, I make of you, which is don't get up and make a speech about your company. Okay? Just get up and say what you have to say. Keep it to about 30 seconds. Don't give a long-winded diatribe about who you are and what you're doing and all that. You can do that later on, one-on-one with people, okay? The format works really well, so I encourage you to have fun with it. So we flipped the coin backstage, and Val got to go first.
Oh,
Since she has lots of things that she wanted to
Excellent.
pick. So pick
Thank
one
you,
out
I
and
did.
tell me what number, and I'll put it up on the screen.
okay, number 8.
Number 8. Okay, let's see if we
Lucky
get to number 8.
Roll the dice.
That one always gets picked. It's amazing. Content and blank are king.
So I'm going to change it up a little bit. I think we always have said content is king, and I think some people would say distribution is king. I really think what we're seeing in this consumer choice era that we're in now is that the experience is king. The content, the videos, the movies, the live events, the scripted and non-scripted can live in multiple places, but who is going to win are going to be the platforms that provide a user experience and an enjoyable experience, because even learning is supposed to be fun. So I believe that the content tied with the experience is really going to be the solution to what's going to last and have longevity in OTT.
Okay. Somebody else? Content and blank are king. You like that, or you got a better one?
I mean, I would say content and audience are king. Those are the two things that really need to meet at an intersection and come together. You have to have good storytelling. Every agent I've ever spoken with at any major talent agency doesn't really care about what the filmmaker has done. They care about the story that the filmmaker has to share. And I think the audience is going to dictate whether or not they want to consume that story. So I think we've seen a lot of platforms which are inferior to other platforms in terms of delivery do well based on content that they have to offer. So I would say, not that I don't agree that
think we're agreeing.
not that I don't agree that a platform can't definitely give an experience that is unique to viewers, but I would say for me it's content and audience.
I actually think there's a hybrid, a middle ground that I agree with both of you. And I would say content, and because I like to alliterate, content and community are king. And I think community is two things. It's that audience, like Larry was talking about, but it's also the experience. It's the tools that a platform can provide that allows for engagement. And really the kind of the new media stars, the YouTube stars out there, what they've been able to do is create a conversation more than creating a passive viewing experience. And using the environment, the experience on YouTube and on other UGC platforms where you can engage with. They've started a conversation and built a community around that, and that's not only an engaged audience, but it's also people who are then going and building their own communities. And then you take someone like PewDiePie. I mean, I think if you've watched PewDiePie, I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but he's created a massive community of people who have then gone and created their own content, and he started a conversation that's been very successful. So it's been a mix of content and that community that have helped to really grow a massive audience.
Okay, let's get from everybody in the panel. Karen, what do you think? Karen, content and blank are king.
I totally agree with the last two statements. I think understanding the audience that's around your content, some content doesn't really necessitate interactivity or community in any way. It's a very lean back experience, and some content that's 100% what it's about. So I think really understanding what your audience is and how the content relates to that should guide all decisions from there. It should guide what platform you're on and what brands you bring in or not. So yeah, I totally agree that the other half is audience.
Okay, Michael, you want to give us a different
Yeah,
one?
I mean, I would agree, and so I don't want to reiterate, but the one thing I would add is like at this, like, and for the long run, I totally agree with what you guys are saying. I think for right now, though, is a business and trying to make a living at this, I would say the content and the advertisers are king, because all the money right now is coming from advertisers for the most part. Online's following a television model, so the advertisers have a tremendous amount of say, at least at this point in time.
Okay, let's see if we can get a couple others from the audience. Anybody have a different idea? What do you think?
Content and discovery,
Content and why?
because there's so much content out there right now that if you can't find it, it's just going to fall by the wayside.
Okay, good argument. Anybody else want to come up with one? Anybody else have a thought of content and something else? Yes?
I would say the love of what you're creating, because if you don't have the love and passion behind it, then it's not going to
So
survive.
content and passion are king?
Yeah.
Okay, content and passion are king. Let's see if we can get one more, then we're going to take a vote. One more.
He touched on it, but I'd say content and monetization.
Monetization, okay, another way of saying it, but that's fine. Okay, so we've got, I'm going to read them off to you. This is how we do this particular one. I've done this as part of a class I used to teach at UCLA. I did this a 3-hour exercise. We're doing it in about 7 minutes. We've got 7 of them, so we'll have 2 votes. The first vote, you're going to get to pick 2. So you can't make up your mind, you get to pick 2. Then we'll take the top couple and we'll vote it off and we'll see what the final answer is. So, content, here are choices. Content and experience, and you guys get to vote as well. Content and experience, content and audience, content and community, content and advertisers, content and discovery, content and passion, content and monetization. Okay, got it? So I'm going to start, and just by show of hands, and we'll kind of do it unscientifically, content and experience. 10, okay. Content and audience. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
You can
Okay.
only vote for 2, right? You can't vote for
Content, and you get 2 votes, don't forget. Content, you get to vote twice. You want to vote, okay.
That's pretty close to.
I'm going to go for audience then, too.
That's all right.
Close.
I'm going to go
Yeah,
for audience.
really close.
Okay, okay, I added a couple more to audience, that's fine. No, we're parsing words. Admittedly, we're parsing words, but these words do all have somewhat different meanings. Content and community. Content and advertisers. Okay. Content and discovery. At least you voted for yourself there, that's good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, about 11. Content and passion. And she is going to vote for herself, very good. Okay, you got one friend over there, that's it. Okay. Content and monetization. Okay. All right, so the way this works is the top 2 were community and advertisers. So now you get 1 vote. One or the other. Content and community, content and advertisers. Wait a minute.
I want to make a point on community.
Okay, well, let's get 1 point of community, 1 point on advertisers, then we'll vote.
Just because in the community, advertisers are inside of that. They are searching who we're at. Our target market, most likely, is our advertiser target market, or should be. So they're inside of our community, and they want the community to be part of it all together. So that's my.
Okay, so there's an argument for content and community, but someone to make an argument for content and advertisers? Yes.
Just if you're the end consumer, you're not really as concerned about monetization. That's from as you're pushing it from the advertiser and from the creator. So it's to the same thing.
Okay. One more thought? Yes.
There wouldn't be an advertiser without the community. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, you know, a lot of these things are important, certainly monetization, advertisers, but they follow, content is what you know, what does the money follow? The money follows the content, community, and audience follow the content, and the money follows the audience and community.
Okay, so we've got a few arguments in all different directions here. All those in favor of content and community, raise your hand. Content and advertiser? Community is the winner this time. What's interesting is I have it on my computer somewhere else. The last 10 times I've done this, I've gotten 10 different answers. Every single time it's different. That's what's fascinating about
What
this.
was the one the last time?
The last time I did it was content and context.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what
Okay, and then there was content and distribution one, content and revenue one time. There's been a bunch of different ones. I've done it at Digital Hollywood, I've done it in other places as well. It's a really interesting exercise, and we can do it a lot more in depth at some other time.
Nobody has any idea, really. That's the answer.
Exactly. Well, we're all making it up as we
In other
go.
words, just keep all these things in mind.
Everything.
Doing your
Everything. All right, let's move on to the next one. Tony, why don't you give us one? Give me a number.
Okay, what goes around comes around.
What number, so I can put
Oh,
it?
sorry, number 11.
Number 11. All right, so what goes around comes around. Content windowing is becoming more prevalent across digital platforms. Agree? Disagree?
You want me to answer?
Yeah, you picked it.
I agree, and I believe that you need to create a destination for yourself if you're a platform or any sort of distribution point, and you need to have content there that differentiates yourself, that makes you that destination. I think Netflix has done that wonderfully. I think HBO did that wonderfully. Amazon's doing a great job with it. So I think at a certain point you need to give yourself to make sure you have a destination point as far as content goes, and that's often done through windowing.
Anybody have a different perspective on distributing across multiple windows in some order?
Well, the only
go
thing,
ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, I was just thinking about Netflix a little bit, because I think they're kind of all over the place. So you don't go there for one thing. You go there to hopefully find something, and you click and click and click. And there are certain things that they have now with their original programming, but I don't, that's something we talk about in our company a lot. Like, what is the differentiator with Netflix? They're the big elephant in the room. And they have a lot, but what do they, they don't have a lot of movies anymore. They don't have, they pull things off. I mean, it's an interesting concept, so I'm not sure I agree, not
You don't
disagreeing with the
You don't
windowing.
think Netflix has a good business?
They have an excellent business, I didn't say that, but the differentiator, they kind of, they own about 80% of the market, right, of the paid, non-advertising, I would add, world. And I'm just trying, just trying to figure out what their secret sauce is. They have a little bit of everything, so
Yeah.
it's an easy buy. But when you're trying to create other OTT and other things, you're always compared with Netflix, even though you can't quite say what it is. Like, they're not just one thing, they're a lot of things. I think it's complicated.
I definitely think content windowing is becoming more prevalent, and I'm all for it. I think it makes a lot of sense that movies have a cycle they go through. I think it makes sense that television shows have a cycle they go through. As much as I love it when an entire season of Transparent goes up, I also kind of wish they would window that a little bit too, just in terms of when each episode goes live. Probably should not be watching 5 hours of TV in a row. And after a while, you just want to watch it because you want to know the story's going to happen, but you also kind of lose, you lose a lot of the show too. We're seeing it now in music as well, with Spotify and Tidal duking it out and trying to get exclusives, and the artist taking a lot stronger look at where their money is, and especially with really big releases, they're in some cases keeping it off digital almost entirely. Adele is a great example of that. She put one track on Spotify, and that was it. Hello was one track. Everything else was you had to buy the download. It's completely off everything except for like Pandora, but Pandora is not on demand, so you really can't help that. But we're noticing that more in music. Beyonce just did it. She's on Tidal only, and had the special on HBO, and has songs on the radio. But they're creating their own scarcity, so they actually have a chance to make money on the front end. And then generally, what you see is as you go, they loosen it up. And they bring it onto other platforms. The major artists can do that. I would think it'd be the same thing with television and film, where you can keep that scarcity, and then over time you would bring it out on more platforms. But even with artists that are big but not as big as Beyonce, what we're seeing happen is they will keep it off Spotify and Tidal and the other services for like a month. So they can get their sales out of their fans to start, and then they'll put it on there. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It's really tough to make a buck right now, especially on streaming services. The advertising isn't really catching up to it. We're not seeing enough people sign on to sub-services where there's enough money flowing back to the content creator. I'm all for it. As long as it eventually gets everywhere, I think that's fine.
So historically, for those of us, like I came out of television, and if you worked in theatrical, there were all these windows that started, a movie started theatrically and it went to international distribution, then it went to VHS and then DVD later on, and it went to various windows through till it got to broadcast television, and there was money in the kitty for each one of them. The challenge, I think, now is there enough money in the kitty, to your point, for distributing content down a number of platforms? Is there enough money to make where you put it on one platform, you make some money, you put it on the next one, you put it on the next one, and it goes in some kind of chronological order? Is there enough money today to be made there for what we're dealing with in the content world, or do you just go make your killing once and be done with it and everything else is gravy? What do you guys find?
Yeah, I think you raise a good point, which is, from both a content creator standpoint and from an audience standpoint of wanting good content, wanting to watch good content, good movies. The issue is, where did the DVD money go? Because it's gone. So that was a lot of money to be able to make films. So now what's happening is Netflix is sort of paying money, and there's a lot more smaller content, but it's sort of been distributed out. So you're having more niche content built and less money for the movies. So the movies have had to be made for a smaller amount of money. But yes, the windowing is extremely important, because that's still the way that you can make money from your film, for an example, and make a film on, a larger budget.
Where do these online video networks play into that equation? Are they at the beginning? You're, Daily Motion's in some cases at the beginning, or maybe you're later on. We were talking before, and you were talking about content that you've acquired from various major networks and all that have seen other plays, and then they come to you. Do you want them earlier? Are you okay with taking them later? The value proposition?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different models for distribution that we have. It can be everything like you just mentioned, from a network, using our platform as more of a marketing piece. If they have a series, they can have interview clips, they can have ancillary content to that. So that we're flexible, really. But then there's a completely other end of the spectrum, is like when we work with Larry's company, it was, an exclusive windowed series that we were trying to get off the ground exclusively on our platform. So that's the other end of the spectrum. So I feel like what ends up being more impactful from a revenue standpoint at the end of the day is probably, for Larry's company, is going to be selling an original content series. But then you also have a long tail where outside of that window, then Larry can go and take his series and put it on YouTube and put it on, or maybe Hulu would want to do a run of it, and they'll give, so there's different models. There's not one model.
Right. So it's fair to say windowing is still around and it has some value.
Oh, it's
certain-
absolutely.
And we still do both. Like
Yeah.
Anthony said, like what we did with them was an exclusive with Daily Motion, but we still do both, where, we've done shows that have been exclusive to NBC On Demand and exclusive to NBC Online and exclusive to Xbox in the first window, and then it goes to Hulu in the second window, and then it goes from there to international airlines and different things like that. But I think the challenge, I agree that it is still important. I think the challenge is in the discoverability, which was a topic of the last thing. It's like, now you have to be so many places all at once to reach the same audience that you could reach on one platform before.
It's funny how these conversations blend into each other without intending it to be. I didn't know Discovery was going to come up, and it's obviously an issue here, so very valid. All right, let's move on to the next one. Michael, why don't you give us one?
Number 10.
Number 10, brand sponsorship is a make or break element for content owners to generate a reasonable ROI. Is it make or break, brand sponsorship?
Agree.
Boom or bust? You agree? Well, is there anything you want to say about agree before Larry just jumps right in and tells you wrong?
No. I would love to start a debate on this, because, like we talk about it, most content online is following a television model. Television had advertisers paying for commercials. Those commercials then paid for content. Now, the money that is paid to YouTube, for example, and that flows through isn't enough to make a living for a lot of big content creators. So the only way to really make money is to go directly to an advertiser and blend their product into your content. And then you can make an ROI, an amount of money that really makes sense.
For us, I agree. For our company, yes, absolutely. We cannot make a return on investment unless we have a brand sponsor 90% of the time. But I wouldn't say the answer to that question is yes, because it really depends on what the kind of content that you're creating is, how often you're releasing the content, what are the resources that go into creating that content. Is it something that you make alone in your bedroom and get millions and millions and millions of people to view every single week that costs you very little to produce and you're earning a lot of ad revenue based around it on YouTube? Or is it a big scripted series with, a crew of 40 plus people? It's really, I think it's a scale question and like frequency question and how much audience and community you can build. Really, it's kind of a community question. Like, can you build a community to support you making it on your own, or do you need a brand? For us, the kind of content that SXM does, we don't really make money unless we have a brand partner.
How many people in this room are producing content that has a brand attached to it? And, okay, so for those of you that are, would you be able to produce that content without the brand? Without the brand revenue, or you would be able to?
Yeah, well, we built the community first. So we started as content creators 10 years ago. We made a film, and it became kind of a cult classic with the community. So then around that, we built a distribution network to sell more films to the same audience that we aggregated. But now we're actually approaching brands because now that we have the audience, Facebook is so massive, we can't actually feed enough content into the network because they want it 24/7 all the time. And we put everything we can shoot up there, and it's weird. It's like the tail wagging the dog. Because we do sell-through on our own media, but then the Facebook has gotten so big that there's actually an advertising play on Facebook. It's become its own revenue stream.
Right.
It's actually its own business within our business.
Anybody else have experience? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we need the brand. I mean, if we don't have the brand, then our budgets go way down. I mean, our audience, for the series that we're doing, our audience engagement, we have audience getting into some kind of ancillary product around the series, but that doesn't generate enough revenue. We've got the audience to get the brand on board, but we need the brand money to actually I mean, we can scale way down. If we lost the brand, we would just scale down and decrease the content.
I feel like the real question is, can you build a large enough audience on your own to generate your own revenue, or do you need somebody to subsidize the cost of you
Right.
creating your content?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I come from, a lot of years in paid content. So the players and the platforms are very different now, but the underlying consumer behavior is the same. So we're not looking at brands to sponsor. We're looking at, will people pay for this content, which, is rather fluid right now. But folks will, and we're all folks that pay for content, right? So people will pay for exclusive, so that windowing makes sense. That we used to call it embargoed back in the day. Release it here first and then somewhere else. So if it's exclusive, it's time sensitive, especially in the B2B space, and a lot of our providers are B2B. If you look at Bloomberg, for instance, how they made their millions, it was he put a terminal in an office, so they were the first to get the financial data. People will pay for that, and the pricing has to be reasonable. So we do a lot of experimenting right now with pricing. What will people pay for? Movies are kind of a no-brainer. If you keep your monthly subscription price, at a less than what your Friday night movie on Verizon, Comcast, or Cox would cost you to rent for 24 hours, and you constantly refresh it, new movies every Tuesday, every Wednesday, whatever it is, people get that. They will buy by the niche. It's not a pain point compared to their Netflix account. So that's what we've been finding. So then it's that audience and building scale. But we look at it very, very differently. I would love to have brand dollars, but that's just not how we play.
So for everybody in the room, if you could each give one quick thought, what should they be thinking about when they're going to attract a brand? We've talked about a few different things. What's the one thing that you found in your experience that will help people in this room go, if I did that, that would help me get closer to attracting a brand? Because clearly everybody's chasing brands. Everybody's chasing the brands. Some people are still chasing agencies, they're chasing independents. You don't even know who to contact, who's got the right in. What's the one thing that you would each say to everybody in the room, this is how, if you think about this, it will move you further closer to getting a brand? So Karen, what do you think? What's the one thing, what's the one lesson you've learned?
Well, we're just kind of starting our process, but what I hear from brands sometimes is that they want to know what the metrics are and what the reach is and all of that. And then I also hear from other brands that they don't really care about that. They're not so concerned with that. They just want to put their name on something cool. I'm kind of doing a hybrid with my show, where we do have reach. We are on networks, so that's great for them. But I'm also, our objective in season 2 is to create content for the brands while we are creating our show. So we're not going to shoot a show and then smack a brand on it. We're going to have a brand involved from the very beginning, so we could be creating content for their social content networks and for their verticals. And in that way, I am one hell of a deal, because I can get them a lot more name artists within their world than they could ever get on their own by doing one-off deals with each one of those artists. So that's sort of where I'm coming at it from. I really hope that brands don't have to be behind every single production. It certainly helps me in my cost for shooting. But I just, being a former artist manager, I think there's intrinsic value in content, whether it's music or film or television or whatever. There's always been an element of brand supporting content networks like radio and television and so forth. So it's always there. But I think that there's a value for the content itself, and I hope that we're able to find revenue models where we don't have to get a brand behind every single show.
I don't know if we're going to have time to have everybody do, but if anybody else has got a quick thought they want to share on.
Yeah, just real quick, I would just say if you're creating content and you say this, everyone could like this, it's for no one. So when you're creating, you have to have in mind who this is for. Going back to the community thing again, who is the person that will watch this? If you can't have that clearly delineated, then you're going to have trouble getting a brand on board.
I just one quick point on that. Like, if you are a content creator in this room, or you are even a platform, what advertiser would fit seamlessly into your content? That's the key, because if you're making a fly fishing show and you want to try to put a tampon commercial in the middle of it, it doesn't fit, right? But if you're doing like a beer in the middle of that, they're done fishing, like what just fits and people doesn't, it just flows seamlessly into the content. The advertisers will go to that because it'll just fit their brand, and that's what branded entertainment should be, is just, they would have used the brand name anyway. It just happens that you're going to get paid for it.
Very great, thank you. Let's go on to another one. Larry, what number would you like?
I'll go with one that is pretty simple. VR will be an industry game changer, number 9.
Number 9.
Within the next 2 years. Definitely a game changer. I don't think it's going to change the types of scripted content we consume, but I think it's absolutely going to be a huge piece of like ancillary content experience, especially when you're talking about platforms or on-site opportunities for content.
So what industry are you defining? It's intentionally nebulous. Industry game changer. What industry is it going to change?
Experiential, ancillary content, promotional content, stuff to get people excited about things that are coming out or have gone out. I see it as sort of like content for theme parks, content for gamers, content for movies that fit within that sort of, if you're watching an adventure movie or an action movie, a science fiction movie. I mean, for me, I haven't seen anything at Sundance or any of the places that I've gone and put on the content that are being made by all the different VR studios that I felt like this is a story that I'd want to sit there and watch like I watch a TV show and participate in, or a movie. So for me, I don't want to say it feels a bit gimmicky, but it feels a bit more like content that as a viewer you have to really want to lead yourself through instead of sit down and enjoy somebody else's story.
I sort of agree. I think it's going to be really important for live. So whether it's live stories in Snapchat, the pricing for the user, the devices has to come down. I agree. It's really hard to do that long form, but it has its place.
What vertical do you think? Vertical or verticals do you think it's going to be a game changer? Just give me one.
Mobile.
Yeah, of course, mobile.
I mean, in a content vertical?
We're actually, talking to someone right now that's kind of like fashion. I think it'll be huge for fashion. I think the younger end of the millennials love it. I think did you say extreme sports or any kind of?
Yeah, I
sports?
would say live, streaming content in general, live.
Yeah.
I really think gaming, especially esports. It's from my experience with VR, it's difficult to use it in a scripted format. I've tried watching a scripted show in VR, and I kept missing plot points because I didn't know where to look. So that was an issue. And even though it was good at moving you from scene to scene, I would completely miss things. But I think having to look all around you all the time in a video game is very complementary to VR. And as esports grows and grows, I can see everybody using VR headsets for it.
Yeah, gaming, sports, music is what I'm thinking. I mean, we just released our 360 product a little while ago, and watching one of our partners is Fox Deportes, and I was watching football, soccer the other day via 360, and I think pretty much all sports is going to be, if it's not already moving that way, it will be there in the next year or two, where you're going to be able to watch from any vantage point in a stadium. I think it's going to completely change sports. I think there's going to be a lot of people, it's funny with sports, the actual live experience for sports and music is becoming so incredibly expensive. I don't know if you saw that the old Coachella that they put together that they announced today.
Coachella.
Yeah.
October. It's already booked.
Yeah. So those are like $225 a day for that ticket, for the base ticket. And the same with sports. Sports is completely getting out of control to actually go to an event. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to lead to more and more demand for that sort of 360 augmented or VR experience with live sports.
I wonder about sports, because when I watch sports on television, I really appreciate the editing, and because they're watching probably 12 or 15 different views, right? And they're telling me where the action is and narrating me through that. And that's really valuable when you've got a lot going on, like with football or basketball.
I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a second screen.
Yeah.
We did a thing for Virgin Mobile where they had all that, you could just pick whichever stage you wanted to watch, and then there was like a fan cam where it was someone going around in the crowd asking people what they were doing, and the fan cam was actually one of the more consistently popular things out of the day. So I think it'll be an option that people will want a custom interactive experience. But I think also I'm with you. I like having announcers tell me interesting things contextually about the sporting event I'm watching. So I think that'll
and
still
show the
be
replay like 3 times. Let's watch him
exactly.
break his ankle
Especially if
3 more
someone gets
times.
injured or something.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to see that incredible play again and again.
Right.
But I actually do like the idea of having a camera out. It just because when I actually did go to an NFL game one time with my husband. We didn't have obviously don't have a team here, so we were somewhere else, and it was such a different experience. And we do now, but at the point in time we didn't. It was such a different experience being in the stadium than it was watching it, because it is more on you to keep an eye on the ball, for example. But just generally, like just being in the stadium and the community of everyone cheering and how they keep the audience going in between plays, and it's like, wow, there's something to be said for having that a note of that experience when you're watching an NFL game on TV.
A couple of comments from the audience. Yes.
I'm in extreme sports, and I think that the POV is for someone who can never, ever giant slalom or or stuff that I do, crazy stuff, furniture race, or underwater hockey, or kayak water polo. Just being in that vehicle and being able to look around as you're skiing down the hill. Again, and I see that the real future of this is actually theme parks where you choose your, I'm going on the bobsled run, man, over the cliff. And then you get wind, cold air, and snow's gonna hit you, and it's gonna be an interactive experience, and it'll be the VR, give it 7 years, it'll be a huge.
Well, there actually is a VR roller coaster now.
Yeah, I
There's
know
there's a
there is.
roller coaster with VR,
Yeah.
so, I mean,
You
you're,
fly through a city.
you're literally on a roller coaster,
Yeah.
but they're showing you a whole different
You're a
experience.
superhero of some sort.
Yeah, it's insane,
Yeah.
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 But I think that eventually, what some of the rides already have, you know, a VR experience where you're on a moving set and you're watching a screen, and wind and the ground vibrates.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be, you know, flavor, smells, and a virtual 3D experience through the VR.
Right.
Works for travel, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
huge for travel.
Yes.
I just like to add to that. I mean, like I've been hearing. Okay, I'm showing my age, obviously, but I basically been hearing about VR for over 2 decades now, and I just don't see the interest in it. It's just like I don't know. I'm just not romanticized by it. Maybe it's because of the heavy goggles, the price. I don't know, or just
Yeah.
you know, I just rather watch it my own way as a regular set. I remember when 3D TV came out, you know, a few years ago. Everyone was excited about then. I put on the glasses, and immediately I said, I'm putting on glasses. And then I saw the 3D, and I was like, okay, there's people really gonna buy this, and sure enough, ESPN 3D is gone, all these other 3D channels are gone. This could, you know, this could be gimmicky in their family. Again, an easy tool is really gonna work.
Well,
Yeah, I
3D was never really good, that's the problem with
Yeah,
it. It never looked good.
Computing has finally caught up. That's the difference now, as in before, is like, you actually can have computers with the help of computers, we can make a great experience.
How many people, just by show of hands, how many people own a VR device other than like Google Card? I'm not going to count that, but anybody have like a headset of some type? And how often do you use it?
Once.
Once. How often do you use it? You work it, okay. You don't.
Wow, that's,
That's cheap. It happens to 2 people, 3 people, you have 1, 4, okay, so, now, this is maybe not fully representative of the room, of the world, but how many people here have had a VR experience? Had at least one VR, okay,
Yeah.
so most people have, but most people don't have a device yet. So it's still early, it's nascent.
Millennials and younger.
millennials, exactly.
That's the
Because
key.
they also, you know, of course, they've grown up digitally, but they're also into the cosplay and the personas and things that maybe we weren't. So it's not, to your point about putting on, you know, I have 2 millennial daughters, like, they're playing games, they're doing that stuff. They don't think about putting the goggles on, putting the hand things on, and, you know, I thought that was the strangest thing, but that's just part of what they do.
I think we'll see a lot more by the end of the year. Samsung's being very aggressive with their get a phone, get a VR set free program.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually funding.
That's right, someone has to fund it.
Let's add to that, you know, about the gimmicky stuff, and also, let's not forget Google Glass. A couple of years ago, I remember the tech industry was like, everybody was so excited about it, and now it's like, nobody would want one.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, so let's move on to one more. Karen, you got one?
Mine is number 3.
Number 3. In 2016, in 2016, live streaming via Periscope, Facebook Live, I used to have Meerkat in there, but that's out now, and others will cause a tectonic shift in video consumption. Do you think is live streaming going to really have a material impact in the marketplace?
I
in the
do,
way people-
yeah. I do
This
it.
year?
Yeah, I do this year, yeah. I mean, Twitch is already tearing it up in gaming, and they are rapidly going into other areas. They're, I think, doing a food program. They're finding what's interesting to their audience and spinning out content from there. I just came from a panel on this exact topic, and we had a guy there from Twitch, and it was fascinating. They had a whole marathon of watching Bob Ross paintings, and people were super into it.
Wow.
And you laugh, but I mean, Twitch makes like a serious amount of money. Like, it's crazy how much they were sold for, like $900 million or something to Amazon, and like that was not a bad deal. So definitely, the next contender, which you may or may not know of, is YouNow, who last year had a huge surge in user base. And they're different from Periscope and Facebook Live and the former Meerkat in that Twitch and YouNow are natively monetized. They do not rely on brands. Brands need to find their place on their own. But there is no, well, I guess Twitch does have a 30-second pre-roll on some of it. But by and large, the vast majority of the monetization comes from users tipping the broadcasters, from subscribing to channels, from buying emoji, from buying privileges within the chats. That's where a lot of the money comes from. YouNow broadcasters are making, $20,000 a month in some cases. Like it's real. And then we have companies like Parachute, which are actually creating networks of content for these channels. So they are trying to create shows, actual shows, that would broadcast at certain times across all these different live stream channels. So live stream is absolutely growing up, bought a suit and graduated, and there is serious money behind it. Facebook Live, I think the jury's out on that. They're being very aggressive right now with getting people to use it to the extent that they're actually paying major celebrities to use it, which I think is a huge mistake. But that's what they're doing. And what Facebook Live is missing is that in-screen chat feature, which is so crucial. This is what makes live stream different from all other broadcast formats. It is that personal one-on-one talking to you, responding to the chat right now. That's why people stick around for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours for these broadcasts, because they're a part of it. They're hanging out. It's not quick editing. It's not, here's your little snack of content and then write your comment or not and move on to the next one. It is basically turning everything we know about a social content network on its head and making a lot of money with it without relying on advertisers to do that. And transitioning a lot of these creators in traditional, well, I guess the regular social content networks, transitioning them along the way. So if you're a huge YouTube star, then Fullscreen absolutely has, they actually have a dog in the fight of getting you to be making money on YouNow and on Twitch and whatever makes sense for you. So, this is all kind of bubbling under, which is why I like doing panels on it. But it's happened, I wouldn't say tectonic now, but yeah, this is the next YouTube, so watch out for it.
Are you all looking at live streaming for content?
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree, and I think especially so it's going to be a game changer even more for broadcast television and cable television, just because a lot of people are holding on to those subscriptions of cable and then turning to live broadcast because they want to consume content live. They want to be part of like a conversation, know it's happening real time. So that's a huge part of our slate for the next year, is pitching a lot of live streaming shows.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add to that is, we just partnered with T-Mobile Binge On because we see this as, it's a huge area of interest. They're making money, but as we all move to this kind of, live stream and the bandwidth requirements and the folks that are paying the money to do these things by the emoticons, they're going to run out of their parents' money. So companies like T-Mobile with their Binge On program, partnering with certain sites and say, if you go there, it's free. I think that we're going to see some changes now in the ISPs. They're going to have to, because this is, just as mobile just blew up and took over our, desktop, and in many households, they only have mobile plans. I think we're going to see it for live as well. It has to.
Is anybody in the room streaming live on a consistent basis? What are you streaming?
Oh, gaming.
Gaming?
Yeah, on Twitch.
On Twitch?
I'm a streamer and I.
You're creating?
People.
And how big is your audience?
Oh, they're very small. Very small, but I don't do it for, I have a full-time job. It's just a hobby, really.
Got it. Okay. Who else is there? You're streaming? What are you streaming?
I stream a mom-related show on Blab. I don't know if you guys know that platform at all. Blab is really cool. It's sort of everything you want in a streaming platform because you can bring on multiple people. Yeah, BLAB. Our show is Mom Blab. But you can bring on multiple cameras from multiple places. So you can have up to 4 people in different locations come on your show and co-host. There's a chat feature on the side, a question feature on the other side. So you really have an interactive show with people all across the country, which is really cool, and we love the platform. The downside of streaming is your guests have to have a really great connection. And if they don't, like last night when we had Christine Devine from Fox News on, if she's in the studio trying to get on her show and her connection's bad, guess what? You're sitting there with pie in your face. So I think the next step in streaming is making sure that everybody everybody understands the requirements that are needed to be installed. It is just a lot more internet connectivity and bandwidth.
Yeah.
How is Blab monetized?
We're monetizing it through a perks program that we do with our website, so we're kind of bringing it in from the back end. I don't know that they really know. It's a pretty new platform, and people right now are just starting to get a lot of engagement. And I think the more that it gets its name out there, the more that advertisers are going to see it's a new feature.
So can people with content, live stream content, go to Blab and just sign up and become?
Yeah, yeah. Right now it's still in its beta phase, but it's bringing people a lot of people, especially people who do mom-related things or life coaches, lifestyle, things like that, where people have questions.
How many people in this room actually watch live streaming? Like say Periscope. They go on Periscope on a regular basis.
Can't not on a regular, no.
What's the experience you have with Periscope? What's the experience you have?
We use Facebook.
Okay.
Live? Yeah, we're doing a lot of live streaming.
A lot on Facebook. Okay. You're doing Periscope?
Yeah, Periscope, but we're not in it that much. It's, there's too much non-focus. People walk on those.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem. I'm not going to pick on Periscope, but that's part of the problem.
I don't mean it in a bad way. It's
No,
just-
well, I find that I'm challenged when I go into Periscope sometimes, and I'm watching, and I'm seeing this constant chatter going up, and I'm not really able to watch what's going on, because the stream, the text stream is filling up 2/3 of the screen, and it's just not a flowing, I'm used to a video experience. I'm used to a produced, we were talking about this earlier, a produced video experience of some ilk.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it has to be network quality production, but it should be some production experience, some production to it. And I find that some of the live stream productions don't have very much at all, it's just kind of putting it up there.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but the novelty kind of wears off quickly.
Right. Well, it's disruptive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what comes in when you're talking about like, brand funded content that you're creating, or you're creating it on your own. If I'm creating it on my own, I probably don't have a huge budget to have multi-cameras, and I haven't probably rehearsed out with my shooters what's going to happen and blah, 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 blah. Like back in 2013, we did a huge show for Samsung called SOS Island, and we did 12 hours of live streaming, and we had, I think, 7 cameras switching from camera to camera to camera. And the whole thing had to be flawless. And we were downlinking through YouTube was our content partner for it, and it was a lot of work. Like it was a lot of work. Yeah.
How did it go?
It was perfect. It went really well. I think it took a couple years off of my life probably, but we knock on wood, it worked. You know what I mean? It went well. None of us thought it was going to go well, including our reality show director, who had been directing reality shows for 25 years, who's a multiple Emmy Award winner, who won a Directors Guild Award for Best Reality Television, and he had done video switching professionally for forever between on multi-camera shows, and
Did the stress?
everybody was white-knuckled the whole way through the whole I mean, you're talking about 12 hours of live streaming over 2 or 3 weeks. It was nauseating every single day.
You made this point, therein lies the rub. It's early enough at this point that that's still an issue. We haven't gotten to the part yet where it's not an issue anymore. And now it's the focus on the content. It's still in part a focus on the experience.
The
Right?
experience.
And if the experience isn't seamless, if the person in your studio, the woman in Fox Studios is not able to connect at a good enough speed, everything goes to pot.
Yeah, but I think that's why, the question is, will it cause a tectonic shift? I think it will, just like I think VR will. I don't think VR is going to replace any of the kinds of content that we already consume, but certainly there's a market and an audience that's going to want that kind of content, whether it's for gaming or travel or any of these things that we talked about, and it is going to take away from the content that already exists out there that people are already consuming. And I think it's the same thing for live streaming. There are going to be a lot of people who don't care about a feed. They actually are going to want a feed. They're going to want to hear what other people are saying the whole way through a video. And so, I mean, I'm not interested in it personally, but
Well, it pushes the technology, too. It pushes all of the providers to get to that level as the consumers demand it.
So we're going to wrap up very quick with a quick thing that I like to do. I'm going to ask you all to just tell us one thing that you're looking at over the next 3 to 6 months, because anything beyond that horizon is pure speculation. Something that you're watching, something that you're looking at, something you're curious about, something you think may explode, something you think may collapse. A deal you think may happen. Someone's going to acquire somebody that you think is going to be a game changer.
I'll go.
Okay? We'll start. Go ahead, start.
Augmented reality. I am very bullish on augmented reality, more so than VR. I'm really curious to see what Magic Leap puts out. They've been leaking a few little videos here and there. I think what they're doing is extraordinary. I'm really curious to see how that shakes out in the next 6 months.
I'm interested in Go90 and Verizon's platform. I think Vessel has struggled mightily. I think from what I've read and what's kind of come out of there around how they've tried to create some exclusive content and then get people to actually pay for it and engage with it, which to my understanding hasn't occurred. So Go90, which is Verizon's big bet and big platform, they're spending a lot of money on original content. And I'm interested to see if they can actually transfer an audience from YouTube and from other platforms, Vine and everything, and bring that community over to Go90.
I think I'll look at it a little differently. You're saying, what are we looking at? We're in a point right now where we're really, as a network, looking to help content creators figure this space out. So we do a lot of testing. So we do testing on our own site. We're really testing right now, the whole pricing. What folks will pay for. Is it, we're an a la carte model. Now we're thinking a la carte by genres. And again, like I said earlier, I think the consumer is going to lead this, but the pricing is really important to us, obviously, and we don't want to be in the Vessel situation. We see continuous subscriber growth. My job is to keep churn down. So those are the kind of things I look at.
For us, one of our focuses as a company is definitely live streaming, and that's only because so many of the brands that we've worked with for 8 or 9 years have so frequently over the past 2 or 3 years come to us looking for that to be a major component of shows that we make for them, even scripted series that are released over a period of time. To Anthony's point about Go90, we actually just made a show for them, an original series, and it goes back to one of the questions on here was I think it came in with like brand sponsorship in terms of like how what is the most important thing when you go to brands with funding. It was funny because when Verizon came to us, the whole show was just sort of a premise. There wasn't really wasn't built out. It was built out around. It was to be built out around specific talent. And I found it interesting because the real reason they wanted to use the talent was based on their social media following. And the show that we did with Samsung back in 2013, it was also every single person on the show was cast based on sort of their audience and their social media following. So I think it even goes back to when we created some of these shows with NBC Online. What I think when we went with the brand and the network to get funding, I think it was the talent that we had attached to the show that really got them most interested. Of course, obviously, you have to have a good story. But I think that's ultimately what a lot of times has helped us to sell through something is the talent that we have attached to it. So we're looking at live streaming and, the same as we've always done, we're looking to attach talent to projects that.
I think crowdfunding. I really believe, I don't know if people know that the law just changed on this, so it's not just, you get a t-shirt for investing things. This is, I think, if you're a content creator or a movie, this is how things are going to get done. If you have a startup, if you want to start up a new division, you're going to do it through crowdfunding. With this change, I think it's going to be a major shift in how money is raised for everything from startups to I want to do a record to I want to do a film to I want to do a web series.
Can you summarize that change?
Yeah, so basically before it was illegal to take money under blue sky laws, basically you couldn't just go raise money. So as part of just a month ago or so, now you can go online, and as long as you're doing it online, I think everything, aside from movie studios, the MPAA studios, all independent people will do their films through this because you basically cover your butt, you know? Like, if you go online and you follow these rules, you know, like the rules that they have online, which are pretty simple, you can raise money for whatever you want to do, and you could take on investments. You want to ask your friends and family for money so you can do a startup. You say, hey, look, I've got this site, and people can anonymously donate, or they can, you know, you can go hit people up and say, hey, go look at this. It is going to change things a lot.
It's major. It opens up the investment community in a big time. I have to say, it's funny that sports came up. I'm a sports guy, and I'm fascinated by how sports will continue to evolve across these different platforms. And the last thing I'll say is that in Canada, they just got to, in March, they just got to unbundling offerings, cable offerings, and it's fascinating. You can Google some of the stories. It's not going over very well right now, where the people are able to buy for $25, they're able to get a small bundle of content, and they're realizing, oh, I don't have all the content I used to have. But they didn't want to pay for all the content before. They wanted the small bundle. Now they're being offered the small bundles, and it's not seeming to be going over very well. So it's an interesting precursor of what might be going on here. Please join me in thanking our panel. Thank you for participating, and we'll see you around the rest of the show.